red one, yeah.
There we go.
All right.
I didn't forget to press record.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna start here. It's let's say 6 o'clock. I just want people that are here just to say their names so I can write it down so I know who's
Jeff Lang.
Jeff Lang.
Yep.
Susan Wyckoff. Marion Cahalan.
Hang on.
He's left-handed.
Noreen
Yep.
Cahalan.
Got Noreen.
Jeannie Fung.
Jeannie.
Jeannie, Virginia.
And the last name again, I'm sorry.
Fung.
And
Mary Lou Cahalan.
Yeah.
you, sir?
Dennis McMahon, McMahon.
And you, sir?
Dan Ward.
And of course, Jeff in the back. All right. So we got the attendance. I'm just gonna go over the minutes of last meeting. Everyone have a chance to look at those. Anyone have any comments, changes?
The only comment I made is I think they misspelled your name.
Oh, you are, yeah.
Oh, I probably did that.
Yeah,
My
no.
name was
Yeah.
probably misspelled.
I'm sorry.
My name was misspelled too, I think.
Was it? Okay, let's see.
I believe. I read it.
It's Cahalane.
Correct.
Correct.
I think it's
Did I,
right.
did I have that?
Yeah.
And and actually, I forgot about people that are calling in, so we'll get to them in 1 second. Everyone go over the minutes, make those.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
Anyone second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I
All right. Minutes are approved with that one change. All right, so the people calling in, if you want to just identify yourselves, so I have that on record.
David Crispin with the BSC Group.
And I got Jim Donahue. Okay. Susan, can you? Susan, you there? No, guess not. All right. Elizabeth? Hi.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Pyle. I'm an attorney at Hill Law,
Okay, great.
and I represent neighbors and abutters to the site. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Hannah?
Yes, this is Hannah Raditz with BSC Group.
Okay, then we've got just unknown callers. Is that anyone want to identify themselves there? No. And then LK. And then a Sue. All right, we'll just go on that.
I think Susan came
Susan's on the board.
Yeah, she's there now, but there's a Sue at the bottom.
up. Okay.
So, just following the agenda. There's nothing on the consent agenda. Anything for the open forum? Okay, move right along to the financial report.
Okay, I sent you guys the July revenue report. We had a good month, a busy month. I guess the one line item where we're significantly down from last year, for the month of July is offloading permits. The tuna just haven't been around, and usually we sell a lot of tuna permits, and they seem to be down this year. So our number's down a little bit, but I know 2 or 3 got offloaded today, so maybe the bite's on, so we'll get more permits, we'll see. But besides that, you know, there's a difference in electric use. That's just timing, you know, that's timing of when people depart and leave and we collect. So besides that, if there's any other questions on our revenues, let me know. We're doing fine.
Anyone have any questions on the revenue report? All right. We don't have any new business, so moving right along. Then, so we're already up to old business, which is the proposal bulkhead replacement, dredging and install of floats, scallop farming, 11 River Bend Road, BSC Corp.
I have a couple copies. You can share.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So I just want to.
Am I able to share a screen so I can share this with you?
Yep, just hold on one second. We just had a couple people come in, so how are you guys?
Go well, thank
Good. Yeah, your names?
Pete Barron. Carolyn Cappuccino.
And
Murphy, Charles, Elizabeth Murphy.
all right. I just want to say a couple things before we get started on the new business here, or sorry, the old business. Is that, you know, as the Waterways Committee, we're more focused on the waterways opposed to, you know, the roads, neighborhoods. We're more focused on what's going on in the waterway, what would be happening in the waterway. So if we can try and keep the discussions to that a little bit.
May I?
Yep.
Okay, I'd like to suggest that our only purview is that, the waterway. And we have no other responsibility or authority to dictate on any other subject.
Well, there's other subjects that are.
Well, there may be other subjects, but our purview.
Yeah, our focus, yes.
Not only focus, but our authority is only on the waterway.
That's what we're
Right.
gonna.
Thank
Sorry, gentleman that just came in. Your name?
Mason, Miles Street, Harrisburg. Well, as access to the waterway, correct? Or not?
What's that?
I said as far as purview, and, I mean, what we have is the waterways, but access to the waterways.
For ramps and things like
Right,
that, yeah.
Right, it doesn't come into play, but I mean, in general.
Yes.
Yes.
Right, we also have, right.
So, who would like to begin?
Mr. Crispin, please.
I am ready for you.
Hang on, we got one more.
Share this screen?
Yeah. Hang on, Mr. Crispin.
Aye.
Hang on.
Okay.
Need a bigger room.
I know, right? Your names?
My name is Robert
Robert
Wherry, W-H-E-R-R-Y.
and
Deborah Sudarsky, S-U-D-A-R-S-K-Y, West Harwich.
Deborah? Okay. All right, go ahead, Ms. Kristen.
Are you folks seeing this screen? Just the overview of the site?
Yes.
Yes, okay, so a little of this is refresher from a few weeks ago. Just a general location we have on the Herring River. The red square is red rectangles is where we're talking about. I think we all know that. This is also a slide from a few weeks ago. The river at the southern point of the floats is 103 feet wide as we look at it now, and the view on the left is a little larger, a smaller view, and a little close-up view on the right side. What's kind of interesting as you go further down river, you see 70 feet, 79 feet So we are not at the narrowest point in the river there. Since we met last time, as was suspected by the applicant, the top of the salt marsh has eroded significantly. So we went out, we actually surveyed the points of the salt marsh, which were always the controlling point for where the new bulkhead would go. The bulkhead was not to go into the salt marsh, but to go up to touch the salt marsh and move it as much landward as possible. In this case, the yellow line that's on there, yellow area around the bright yellow, is the area of the floats that is actually behind the existing bulkhead as we have it now planned. The blue line is the existing float that's been there for a while, and the tannish line is the float that would be seaward of the existing bulkhead. Dealing with the portion that's along the north-south axis, right parallel to the channel, so to say, this results in a net reduction of 10 square feet of float area east seaward of the existing seawall. So that should make you folks happy, I would think, from the idea of keeping the channel open. We're actually reducing the impact to the seawall, and that's as close as we can go without altering sea marsh, which is another whole army of permits. We don't want to do that. The army of impacts from that. Just to show you this in a visual, the prior plan was the red line. That's where we thought we had to be. And we kind of have to hold the bottom end of the southern end of the bulkhead to match the existing one, which is that heavy black line at the bottom of the sheet.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
I don't know, you might not have proceeded in your PowerPoint, because I think you're still on the first slide.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if everyone else can see it.
All right, let's try that again. Are you seeing this?
Yep. Okay, so
That's a picture of Herring River.
With the widths of the channels.
Yeah, so this is what you were missing. I apologize that my screen was advancing. I guess yours wasn't.
That's good now.
So we'll deal with this with the little pictures to the left. But the yellow area is the proposed float that is actually landward of the existing bulkhead. Pretty significant. The blue area is the existing float, and the light tan area is the float seaward of the existing bulkhead. If you take the blue area and the area that's in parallel to the channel along the existing bulkhead, we're actually reducing the square footage of the float area along that stretch of the channel by about 10 square feet. We went out, as I was saying, we actually went out and we surveyed the edge of the salt marsh behind the existing bulkhead. The applicant had suspected that had eroded quite significantly over the last 2 years since the original survey was done, and he was correct. 2 to 3 feet it had moved back. That allowed us to rotate the bulkhead from the red line where the original plan was to the green line. That's a pretty significant shift back from the channel. And just to put it simply again, what's the project? It's to remove the existing bulkhead, replace it with a new bulkhead that would be put in just touching the salt marsh at the closest point. We're going to do some dredging under the in front of the bulkhead, -6 elevation, install some new wood piles and guide rails that allow the floats to go up and down. And the only other change is mitigation. Because we had such a gap behind the seawall before, we had 450 square feet of salt marsh to be restored, actually down to about 200 square feet. And part of this with conservation, we've talked about donating scallop seeding around town, and certainly the scallops themselves are a denitrification, adding to water quality improvements. And I think at that point, I know there's a lot of discussion with the neighbors and whatnot. I'm not sure that's for this commission, but we can deal with it if you'd like to chat about it. And that's where I'm kind of at.
Okay, thank you. if I'll be able to get everyone's names, everyone coming in while we went and review that, so,
Maybe at the end,
Yeah,
you
we
can
just
ask
have to-
people
yeah.
to come in and make sure.
So I think I'm gonna push this off to the harbor master, let's hear what he had to say. I know he went out again and did another site survey, so.
I know that there's, I received yesterday, kind of last minute, several letters and input from some lawyers who are representing abutters. Maybe you might want to hear some of that, and I kind of would, before I opine on
Yeah,
where I'm
I
at.
didn't print all that out.
Huh?
I didn't print all that.
No, but I mean, I think there's people here who
Oh,
might
sure.
want to speak to it. And
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to go first, or.
so I think if it's okay
Yeah.
with you, maybe we can get some of that information.
Sure,
Maybe Elizabeth Pyle can go first.
sure.
Can mute themselves.
Yeah.
All right, so David, you wanna mute yourself so we don't, we got a few, there's John, caller two, there's two Johns, they got their microphones on, Jim Donahue. We get a lot of feedback. All right, well, go ahead, Elizabeth.
Thank you. My name is Elizabeth Pyle. I'm an attorney at Hill Law, and I represent many people in the area who I've listed in the letter that I sent to you yesterday, including direct abutters to the project. And we are concerned with several aspects of this matter that we don't think have been adequately reviewed or evaluated to date. And we'd like you to not make any recommendations at this time until these issues can be resolved. And I outlined these issues in the letter that I did yesterday. But briefly, they are, I think somebody needs to.
Yeah, hang on, Elizabeth, hang on. John.
Needs to turn off their microphone.
Yeah,
They need a host.
Hear me?
I can't.
Can you hear me okay?
No, we can't. This is-
Yeah. So somebody named John
Yeah.
should turn off their,
Yeah.
should mute their microphone?
Yeah, there's two Johns. Can you mute your microphone? Or just be quiet?
So the major points that I wanted to bring up to you that I raised in my letter are that this project needs Chapter 91 licensing before anything can be done here. And they don't have licensing for the three major components, and they need it for all of them. They don't have a Chapter 91 license to move the bulkhead landward. They don't have one to conduct new dredging, and they don't have one to install commercial scallop floats in these locations. And the state should go first before any local board reviews this, because it is ultimately the state that can determine the public's rights and the tidelands and whether this project is even viable. So it may be that when the state looks at it, they'll tell the applicant yes or no or adjust, and then the local board should come in after and make a decision. Otherwise, you'll be redoing all of your work. Now, they don't just need a license to move the bulkhead and to do the dredging, but they also need it for these floats. These are different floats than I believe your committee is used to looking at. Usually the harbor master would approve floats for an annual license, for a temporary float. That's for a recreational boat. Here, these floats don't meet any of these exceptions for an annual permit by the harbor master, particularly where they're not an accessory use to a residence. It's a commercial operation, and it's in a whole different category. The second point that I wanted to make for you is that no action should be taken until the wetland resource areas on the site have been delineated through a peer review process through the Conservation Commission. And that should include a peer review of the shellfish survey and a survey for eelgrass. And this is important because you're evaluating whether to locate water-dependent structures in this area and whether to grant variances. And in order to even determine if the variance standards have been met, you have to know what you have there on the site. And you can't know if you have a project that's in a shellfish area, if the shellfish areas have not been properly delineated. And we have a dispute now about where the shellfish areas are on the site. They've gone back out, but I submitted photographic evidence from our expert who looked and disagrees with their determination of where the mean low water is. And so before the Conservation Commission or the Waterways Committee can make a determination here, you need to know what you have on the ground, and that's a reason to wait. So the Conservation Commission can order a peer review of this matter. The third thing that I wanted to bring up is that they're proposing work to tie in the bulkhead moving to property owned by my clients, David and Linda Kelleher, and they have not coordinated with the Kellehers in any manner. And right now, they are proposing to do work on the Kelleher property because they seem to have mistaken where the property line is and confused the fence line for the property line. And so this is something that needs to be evaluated before any recommendation is made. And then finally, we are concerned about the impact on swimmers who use the channel and boaters who use the channel, given that there are strong currents that push swimmers and boaters toward this area, and that we are concerned that swimmers in particular could become entangled in the floats, and that the channel will be unacceptably narrow for recreational boating. So these are some of the concerns that we have at this time, and we would ask that you defer action to a later hearing until these matters are resolved. And I'm happy to answer any questions about my letter, and I'm available, and thank you very much for listening to the comments.
Thank you.
Would you like a comment on that now or later?
Oh, we're gonna get a lot of comments, but yeah, go ahead, David.
All right, as far as getting the Chapter 91 license before, absolutely not correct. You'd need the order of conditions to apply for the Chapter 91 license, so this is the first step. Do we need another Chapter 91 license? We acknowledge that we may. The final decision that lies with the Chapter 91 people, and they are down the stream a little ways as far as the process is concerned. I was just looking at the CAD file on the property line. Seawalls commonly tie into one another, and the property line is basically along the fence. So it ties in. I'm sure the applicant would be happy to discuss their concerns with the abutter, but I don't think that's something for this board to be concerned about. That's kind of all I wanted to say.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, who do we go with next?
The ones that I got, just to be clear, I got letters from Mr. Donovan. I don't know if he's on or wants to speak to it. Just give him an opportunity because he sent it to me. Hold on one second.
Mr. Donovan's letter is represented by many of us that are here.
Okay, and I didn't know if maybe he wanted to
He's
speak
not
to it.
actually here, but we are here to represent that.
Okay.
Are we online?
Yeah, the session, the go-to-meeting session just ended. I don't.
Just saying, property line is defined by mean height,
Yep.
not mean low, it's mean height. That's your property line.
Is your recording still on?
No, nothing stopped. Well, the recording continued, but the go-to-meeting is stopped.
And then
Can we
Noreen,
get it back on so that the people can?
Yeah.
keep
Well,
up
it's
with it?
being recorded, but I don't know if is that a touchscreen?
Someone's recording it, they should.
Yeah.
Mean low, you have the right to trespass, fish, fowl, and fly.
No, it's
Does
not
it
a
say who's
touchscreen.
recording it?
Don't, yeah. Yeah, the recording's on the other device.
do we want to try to get somebody to help us?
Mr. Chair, I'll go see if you wanna go, or you want me to?
Let me see if I can find somebody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so we should pause for a minute here.
They should-
Technical difficulties.
Are you the host of that Zoom?
No, I'm not, no.
Who is the host? Cause they should be able to unmute.
That's
that.
Caleb that does the does
Yeah,
the-
but I'm saying then they can mute people and whatnot.
He sometimes sits in another room.
He doesn't have his camera on, he's not even paying attention. He would have muted it.
We rarely get this much attention.
Consider yourself lucky
This is
tonight,
special
right?
treatment.
I was told.
There's
there was
nobody
gonna be
around
some
from Channel
scholars,
18.
that's why.
To be able to fix that.
Yeah, it's on his Mac. I don't have authorization on his Mac.
Total.
I just stole a seat.
But I mean, people who are dialed in can't respond or.
No, they can't.
Right.
Did they lose it?
Someone should be here.
I mean,
I don't know anything about this thing, so
well, that's tied into his Mac, and I don't have authorization to.
Is that his Mac?
Is he the guy that's over at the conservation place right now?
I don't know where he is. I
let me
don't.
call Jamie.
Yeah,
I got Jamie on the line here.
You do?
I'm fine.
Your call.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you have the Zoom address?
It's not Zoom. It's GoToMeeting.
No. Do you have that?
What does it say in the corner there, Conservation Commission?
It's Conservation Commission. We'll
Agenda.
we'll start in 5 minutes.
Do you think that, yeah, it might be an issue, something's over.
That's a reminder.
Oh,
It's because it's the town. They.
Hey, Jamie? Jamie, hi. Is there anyone here for Waterways? The go-to-meeting just went down.
It wasn't hot in here when I got here. Probably fewer people.
It made a nice noise.
it was 100 degrees last time
Now,
in here.
No, it was a hot box.
Yeah.
recording, but the people on go-to-meeting cannot, they can't speak, they can't hear probably, maybe they can hear.
That session has ended.
Yep.
You're done. And organizer has ended this.
Sorry about that, turn everyone.
Mr. Chair, Jamie is working on it.
Okay.
There's no one on site. She feels that when conservation went online,
Yep.
it bumped this. I don't,
Right,
I'm
that's what,
just a messenger here, and.
Yep.
So she's gonna work on it remotely. She said give her about 3 to 5 minutes.
Okay.
That's fair.
if they can hear you, those people, if they can hear us, you should say we're
Well,
working on it.
all right. Yeah. I mean, the GoToMeeting has gone down, and they're working on the situation. Should be 3 to 5 minutes, hopefully.
I think we should order pizza.
That's what I was wondering, yeah, JD.
Yeah. Let me see. Well, if people, more people keep coming in.
Piece of paper over, you just have people sign.
It probably is, yeah.
Their name.
Oh, you can just read it. No, it's Jim, Good guess.
Yeah,
There's a couple of Johns there,
Yeah.
you could just try to be a little more,
Get 2 votes.
anonymous. No, stacking the
Are you
deck.
done with my inventory?
Oh, sorry, I didn't realize. No, I was gonna, you said it was only gonna be a few minutes, it would take me that long to get.
Mr. Chairperson,
Yes, sir.
I have a question. Are these documents and maps and so forth available?
Yes, they're presented. The harbor master presents them on the town website before every meeting.
Sorry, they're on there now?
Yeah. This isn't gonna work, John. I mean, this is.
We have to just,
We're gonna have
I mean, if they don't get it fixed, we're just gonna have to postpone.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all
I
there's
mean,
to
we
it.
can't, this is, I mean, this is, we can't have, what if something happens here?
Seems like town hall's probably the solution.
Yeah, we need to start,
Less controversial.
I mean, this is.
Well, if these people call.
Yes, sir.
Did we use the time or we shut down?
We can't discuss anything right now, no.
Jamie is still working on it.
Okay.
Okay.
I know.
Might get that way in a few minutes.
I mean, this is gonna be a safety thing soon, John.
Might be the last one, we don't know.
Thank you.
Definition of community.
Sorry, you want this chair?
Need a bigger room. Yeah.
Come on, you got it. Oh, okay.
Well, when we have.
Jeannie, you wanna sit here?
Fiona.
I'm not trying to be the chairman, but I'm the chairman of the chair.
Nothing's gonna change.
Small suit.
No, nothing's gonna get. You can already tell.
Trying to be the joke.
I'm just saying. Yeah, now that John's here, I feel okay that we can meet. He has way more interest in it than we do.
That's not true. That's not true.
Look, there's obviously no scallops here. That was the only reason why I came. You said they might give us scallops.
This is the Scallop Festival?
Right?
I
At least
mean,
you're saying it right.
if it was me, I'd be giving out
Made
scallops.
scallops a couple of weeks ago.
Stuffed ones.
We'll start
We
there.
should change the way.
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
Matt is on his way over from Concom to here.
okay,
He should be here shortly to get it back up and running.
okay. Oh, where is he?
He's starting conservation, getting them up and running, which started at 6:30, so he's probably working his way over here right now from town hall.
He does. Has he read it? Okay, good.
And we've had to stop because they can hear us and we have to cut the conversation.
He's only got, he's got, till what, 7? He's got 45 minutes.
So we still have
Online,
She just got a second. She wasn't like mentioned it in someone.
But how do you want to just hear from them?
I think if
The
there's
letters,
anybody
I want
else
to try
who
and
wants to
organize
speak to the
it.
letter, they can.
Have everyone just reference the letter.
Everybody wants to speak specifically to the letters that were sent for the benefit
Of the,
You want
to go before or after?
Well, just finish what you're doing, like reaching out if there's anybody who wants to speak to it. So I have.
That's why I said it was two jobs. No, that's
Already heard
Jim.
from.
Yeah. The hill,
And she was referencing this
Of course.
Right.
There were native scholars. No, but so I'm just saying the league did.
Yeah, you know, in general.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as far as like,
Yes, sir.
it's really a reintroduction.
I know, I appreciate it, thank
Yeah,
you.
we need all the other.
Sure, yeah, you know, it's, you need so much more.
You don't think it is?
Well, that's what I've asked for. I was saying yesterday, before playing it, obviously it's not packed, just a week. So the chair is gonna get
It takes baby steps.
you know, Donovan,
They care about everything else.
They want
everybody here.
It's not.
But it's like this.
No, they want, they're happy with the place.
You know,
But they don't want
density of the actual water.
He's trying.
He's trying to sell. I'm saying, you don't run about financial standpoint. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, you'll do very well.
which is you think there's enough square footage for it? Yeah. Like what? All those and then just step How many pieces would you get for
I'll quote some of these final studies, but numbers.
like low?
You could do that.
Yes, no, they need to go through you, they need to, yeah, but we're not gonna go back and forth.
I know, and this guy surface shouting out about clean high water and all that.
Yeah, I'm gonna shut that down.
Yeah. That's very interesting.
Oh, yeah. You can't. Of course.
Yeah.
Just
That's not right? Because
for me,
specifically for you, but you know, like business. What's that?
it's pretty great.
Do you want to think before I do? Because I'm probably gonna make
I just want to ask to his history of farming in here.
So why don't you call him Don before you call him me? Let him, address it.
Well, I'm gonna address these,
And then go to,
but I think you should go before the plan. Right? Are we gonna hear from him?
well, he's being represented by his engineer.
And I was just going to ask questions to Jeff. That's it. Just more conversationally than anything.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Yeah, 'cause I just wanna get it.
Yeah, I think these people have a lot different concept of what we can do.
Yeah, they all wanna be heard too, though, but we have the letters that I sent you guys today, that were sent this morning to me.
Right.
You know, that pretty much represents a lot of their feelings, so we're gonna go through what was said.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm not gonna go back and forth all night.
No, and we have no purview over most of the things, right?
We do, but they're rhetorical, they're redundant.
But now I have.
There's a lot of redundancy.
It's almost like appointing one spokesperson for the group would be a good start.
Right.
You know, because everybody can challenge us.
Yeah, we just kind of like.
So Matt is in there right now setting up.
So he just said, the mic is
Oh, absolutely.
Leave these people alone.
They probably like, we're just right in there for like. And then.
They keep floating around.
That's what he was saying before. They might be, it's like sports.
No.
And they
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I'm sure they would. That's
We're putting them out.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, but.
No, we have two kids that work together, and then.
Okay, now, if anybody is following this meeting electronically, you have something to say, you better get in the car.
not yet. I mean, I brought it from Long Island, you know, so I sailed it obviously from there to here, been out a couple times, you know.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I hear you. Yep.
Eventually, you know, maybe in the fall.
You keep going back. Trying to reboot, restart.
I'm 4 days earlier going in this year than last year. But we haven't had any good weather, so like, you know, I don't feel like I missed anything. That's how I passed along, you know. So
Like last weekend was the best. We went pretty much every weekend.
Last fall we went more times. We went from the hockey rink, from a hockey game to going on the boat to either to the beach or fishing. And people are like, "You're absolutely like this is crazy." I'm like, "Yeah, well, when it's 70 degrees in late October, that's what we're doing."
I used my boat a lot.
Yeah.
But it was windy, like July. Every weekend was really windy.
Yeah.
We didn't use a bunch.
Yeah.
Last weekend was like the first weekend. Yeah, we spent some time on it.
There was like maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, we went up to Stage Harbor. Yeah, it was gorgeous. Like,
That's what we've been doing a lot. We spent a night there, in the morning there.
Oh, that's cool.
My kids love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you just grab a mooring or?
Yeah, you know when you go in that ocean and there's five of them there, it's open to the public. First come, first served. Yeah. So usually I go a lot with Dan, so usually one of us will grab a mooring first and then we just tie up next to each other.
Oh, that's cool. Where are you?
So you know when you go into Stage Harbor, right that ocean right to the right. Oh, once you're gonna get in, you got more island, right there, just right in there.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, it's kinda nice.
John went through all the trouble to write the letter. A couple of extra bodies came out. No, he's on the Zoom. Yeah.
How long do we give them to?
So he was just about to sleep.
He's working on it. Unless he tells us he can't.
We could work on for half an hour. This is ridiculous.
It is what it is. I don't think we can just cancel it.
I kind of gathered it was already said. Now that they know they gotta get a couple things done, I don't think this is gonna be easy. I could be wrong. Yeah, he read a brief thing. So I think it's, we heard from the Scullum guys, whatever he's called, an architect, engineer, whatever. But has architectural opined on the impact? No, not yet.
That's why
There is, I think that where is fixing temporary floats, and then it's about which kind of makes sense.
What's that? What do you have for power on your boat? 210 comments. Big and slow. Yeah. Yeah, it's nothing fancy, just pure diesel. It's a 30-foot boat, so I mean, it pushes it pretty well, but it cruises at 10 knots. But some days you feel like you're going backwards, other days, but it's comfortable. I mean, you can drink a cup of coffee. It's good. I have a Seacraft, which I'll get right next to the boat. It's kind of fun. Go fast. Yeah. My father-in-law had a 23 Parker. That was a sweet boat. It was nice because it was like a modified V, and it was dry, but you could get into any weeds. You didn't need that, like, you didn't have to overpower it. You put like a 200 on it. It flew.
It was free, but running 36 miles an hour.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. Like, there's always somebody 5 times bigger than you. There's always somebody 10 times smaller.
I like
This is my first foray into a diesel boat. It's so just mechanical, and I like that because like I can keep a set of sockets, a set of wrenches, and then I can just do whatever I need to do. I don't have to worry about computers.
I used to build 80s and 90s motorcycles.
Yeah.
Just hard stuff.
Yeah.
Hardtail problems.
It's nice.
We don't need. We don't need the mic. We don't need webcam. We're recording. We don't need a webcam.
It's way better. It's way better.
Unless someone, David Christian still can present. The recording the voice. Right now they can't see us, so they can't access the camera.
Yeah, we'll probably have to hit the record button again.
No, we're recording.
We're still now, okay.
I just have it still working.
We lost John if he was on. That's not John Donovan at JD, that's Jim. I went up and looked because I couldn't read it
So this is how big they are.
Yeah.
The light speed.
Yeah.
We're just at a standstill right now, we don't know when.
Might be coming back.
Looks like they're close.
Oh, okay. Okay.
What's that?
She would like to speak next on her letter. She's one.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
If that's okay.
Yeah.
Let me know when we're back on.
Could elevate it.
Yeah, we're just waiting for the camera to come back.
Be up to the individual.
Yes. Yes, I spoke to her the other day.
Here we go.
Who cares about the weather or red salt?
All right, everyone.
Yeah.
All right, we're back up. Sorry for that. Also, thanks for everyone coming in. Yeah, we're back. Thank you. So to continue, we just want to try and address the couple of letters that we got in today, or actually late yesterday. I know everyone has a feeling on everything that's going on. We don't want to be going back and forth all night, but we're going to start with Noreen and her letter, and go start from there.
Okay, hi, I'm Noreen Cahalan, and I wrote a letter as well and submitted it. And I'll try to, I sent the letter to both Conservation Commission and Waterways, so I'll try to just touch on the Waterways stuff I might not know which is which, but I'll try. But one of the first things I think is they're trying to privatize the water in front of their house. They bought a property that's 0.53 acres, and they're trying to claim all the water in front of it as their own. You know, no one should be able to do that. It's a public waterway for everybody in the community to use. And they're trying to put in 720 square feet of floats. And the Howich Harbor Management Plan, you know, you're only supposed to have 200 square feet of floats. It's a variance to get more than that. 720 square feet is the size of some people's houses. That's a lot of square footage. You know, it just, they shouldn't be able to do that. It would impede on people navigating. You know, it's 12 6-foot by 10-foot floats. They want them to be permanent. You know, all the floats are supposed to be temporary. You know, according to the, again, the harbor, Howich Harbor Management Plan, you're supposed to be able to have sunlight go through to the floor so that shellfish can get light and grow, and, you know, so our native wild clams, scallops, oysters, whatever's in the river, that they have a chance to do what they're supposed to do. And we have a lot of moorings in the area, and nobody's supposed to be able to displace an existing mooring. You know, again, that's in the management plan, you know, that if you have an existing mooring, no floats or other structures are supposed to be able to impede on that. And then the moorings, you know, there's a wait list. People wait on years to get a mooring in the Herring River. And then to get one south of Lower County, which is where this location is, you go on a second wait list. You wait even longer. You know, so people have been on wait lists for 10, 12, you know, 15 years, whatever it is, trying to get a 20-foot boat mooring in the river. And we're gonna all of a sudden not give them a mooring, but we're gonna give someone else 720 feet of floats, you know, just like that. The floats are gonna have hatches, you know, 4 hatches to each float. They're gonna have hanging cages. They're gonna be cages and with ropes. And the current is very, very strong there. You know, people who go by in their boats, the swimmers, the people on the paddle boards, the kayaks, you know, they could get entangled but with these boats, with these ropes and cages. You know, it could be a very dangerous situation. You know, so those are some of the things that, you know, and then like Liz Pyle said, the lawyer, you need the Chapter 91 authorization for these structures. They're new structures. You know, so that's something that they just can't go ahead and put floats in. And even the bulkheads themselves, they're not trying to just replace the existing bulkheads. They're trying to put in bulkheads that are gonna be significantly taller than what's there, because they're gonna put these guide poles up that the floats will be attached to. They're putting in a bulkhead to have commercial scallop farming to hold these floats on. You know, so they're not even replacing the existing structure. It's a totally new structure. So that, you know, shouldn't be allowed. The Howich management standards, you know, no permit to conduct a water dependent structure. You know, they have to, there's a bunch of things that they have to comply with, you know, and I don't think that they are complying with that. You know, the moorings and not encroach upon the deep water channel. 80 feet seaward, 50 feet into the deep water. And then the, dredging, dredging shouldn't be allowed. It would affect everything. Okay, I guess that might not be waterways, sorry. I'm not sure if that's waterways, the dredging, or if that's
It's
conservation.
a part of it.
It is part of what you look at, okay.
The natural resource officer looks at that also.
Okay. And, the dredging they wanna do is new dredging. Commercial vessels would have to come in and into the river to access these, scallop net baskets or conduct essential repairs and maintenance. Per their proposal, they're saying they need to do that. And they're gonna tie up to these floats that are gonna be, 6 feet into the waterway. So a commercial boat will be, tied up, further blocking the waterway. A couple of neighbors who boat, they say during low tide, they talk about it's like 103 feet across, but during low tide, the footage is a lot less. It's maybe more like 40 or 50. There isn't 100 feet. So if you have these floats sticking out and you have another vessel, dock to it, people aren't going to be able to maneuver through the river. And everyone who goes in and out of the river, they have to go by this point. It's very close to going out into Nantucket Sound. They're gonna have the new bulkheads are gonna be like 10 feet above the mean high water. They're proposing like the existing bulkheads. The elevation of what they're trying to put up is, gonna be significantly higher than the existing bulkheads, and that's because they want to do, the farming. Again, the Howard management plan, any structure proposed to be sitting in a salt marsh or adjacent to a salt marsh can't destroy the salt marsh. So these floats, could have an impact on that. They haven't done a complete shellfish survey. One obviously should be done. It's according to the, town plan, it's required. This could negatively impact the heron population. The Heron River, part of it is, we have the Heron Run. It's very important from, March 15th to June 15th. Nothing's supposed to be done that would interfere with the herring. This potentially, could interfere with that. There could be habitat, destruction. The pollution, the feed and antibiotics used in scallop farming can lead to algae blooms. Any escaped of farm scallops, if they come out of their cages, could spread disease to the wild scallop population. It's a very sensitive environmental area. We have a lot of, birds, plovers, terns, ospreys, herons in the area. The different fish that live in there. I'm trying to avoid the ones that maybe you don't want addressed. They're asking for a lot of variances. They're asking for variances to, land use ordinance, land containing shellfish, salt marsh, you know, which all are, no disturb zone, the, you know, this footage of the floats. You know, I think that this is a very bad idea. They're trying to commercialize and privatize something that the whole community should be able to enjoy, and nobody should be able to come in and just claim, you know, the water, that amount of water that, you know, if someone has a lot of money, they shouldn't be able to just purchase any house on the river and then do anything they want with it. It would be setting a very bad precedent if we allow someone to take over that amount of water. You know, they're starting out with 720 square feet that they're requesting, and, you know, I know you don't want to hear it, but it is, you know, they have more plans than that. This is the first phase of a multi-phase plan. So, I mean, I guess I would ask that you all read through my letter if you haven't had a chance to do that. I realized you didn't have it that much in advance. I was still trying to finish it. But, you know, if you could take the time to read through it, I'd really appreciate it. And I tried to just address the things that were based on Waterways, and I really think it would be very bad for the neighborhood, the abutters, the neighbors, the community, everyone who enjoys the Herring River, and please do not allow this to go through. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, just another letter that we got was just from John Donahue Jr. Does anyone speak about that?
Donovan or Donahue?
Donovan.
Donovan. Right, you said
Oh,
Donovan.
I'm sorry.
I don't think he's on, that's Jim somebody. He was on earlier, but.
Yeah. All right.
I can speak to what John said. I read the letter, and I by no means could do it justice from memory, but he covered many of the points the way he did. And basically, from a practical standpoint, one of the points he made has been illustrated by with anybody who's gone down the Herring River in a boat, because the shoals appear on the left side as you're going down, and you know, particularly at low tide, you have absolutely no passageway there. And when the boats are swung towards, you know, the Belmont, it's blocked now almost. With this kind of a basic structure on the other side, particularly if any boat was there taking scallops off or doing anything with it, it would really create, you know, a problem. And there's no way that two boats could pass, and even putting in those structures as they proposed. I think that was the biggest thing. I mean, he mentions, and again, this may not be the point of this committee, but what is the use, you know, and is it for recreation? Is it for the town to be able to use, or did you intend to have somebody come in and be able to commercialize effectively, you know, a significant piece of that waterway? And I think that, you know, from my memory, that was the essence of what he said. He certainly didn't have the facts that Maureen had, but it was similar in nature.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think obviously there's going to be both sides to everything. A lot of people are going to have a lot of comments. We want to try and keep this, as, you know, we want everyone to be heard as much as possible. I think we should continue with the Natural Resource Officer next, just to get some more facts on his side, and we'll continue from there.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Sorry, my back turned to some of you folks. Jeff, how are you? Good. Hope you're doing well. So I wanted to point out I have a a request for your Class 3 marine aquaculture permit that was approved, to my knowledge, in 2020, enacted September of 2019. Exactly. Yeah. Can I just have a little more context to what you were doing up the river necessarily? Or
We worked with Heinz on testing out the bay scallop, how they liked the river, and what the salinities were, to where we could understand whether that was a place that they did well in. Right. And so he had added us to his release program, just so we were growing them out and then just releasing them out into the river. Right. For stocking purposes at that time, because we were doing experimentation to find out what waters did they like and how well could they survive there.
Right.
Excuse me, do we know who this, we don't know who this is?
I'm Jeff Lang. And
sorry.
You just said Jeff, we don't know who.
I'm sorry.
Yep. Yeah, Jeff Lang. Don Dionisi, I'm the Director of Natural Resources and Natural Resource Officer and Shellfish Constable in the town.
Okay.
And so we did get permitted for raising bay scallops as an aquaculture facility under the docks at my house at 99 Riverside Drive. Okay. And so those, I mean, this is our first year that the hatchery is in operation. Right. And so the animals aren't there yet because we had a slow season getting started. Right. But once they get up to a 1 inch diameter, it allows you to have a net size wide enough that they don't get clogged easily. Right. So,
but still in the same body of water in Herring River.
Same body of water.
Yeah. And what's your intention for doing that for this year, for this fall?
We'll be putting them out in the next 2 weeks.
Right. Okay. Yeah. And are you using nets, correct? Like lantern nets style.
Lantern nets and some of the 30 by 30 wire cages.
Okay. And those are the same. That's the same size that you're planning on using for this, 30 by 30. Yeah. Right. Okay. All right.
Can I just ask a question? It's under, just to clarify, I didn't hear it. Is it under your existing dock that you already had? That's where you put them? Yeah. Wasn't a new structure? Okay.
Well, it was new. I had the old blue foam docks. So
right, but it was your docks that there, and then you put them on
the same dimensions, and we put them underneath there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now I know in comparison to what you're doing up 99 Riverbend,
new structures as opposed to old. I just
right, a little different in that aspect.
And we only had 3.
Sure.
You know, there are three.
All right, hold on. We're gonna keep it. Yeah, we can't. This is gonna get crazy out of hand. All right. If you need to make a comment, raise your hand. Let this regular conversation go.
So in the context of your pilot study that was approved by my predecessor Heinz, you found that it was successful within Herring River, clearly, or else you wouldn't be here today. Now, to what size? I forget. How many bay scallops are you looking to grow within your first plant here?
I'd have to look at that number.
Just trying to like an estimate or
I think it's around 150,000 to 200,000 that we grow out from 1 inch to 5 to 6 inch size.
Right. Okay. So one thing that I have here is, let me flip to it. So I know you stated they'd be grown from a minimum of 10 millimeters in shell height through market size, which is roughly 60 millimeters. Is that still the plan, ideally? So in your 8 feet by 20 foot space that was at 99 Riverbend, you say here you have 4 silos that are 21 inches by 21 inches and 24 inches high. Is that still what's there today?
They're 30 inch.
So 30 by 30 square cages instead of the silos.
Correct. It's a slight modification of that.
From what your original plan was?
Mm-hmm.
But have we ever been notified of any changes?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think Heinz was there.
Right, yeah. I just want to make sure that if we're doing this plan, that we're going to stay on the same track of being on the same page as each other.
And we've been back and forth between the 24 inch diameter lantern nets and the square cages.
Okay, and so the lantern net is 20. What's the dimensions of the lantern net that you're looking to use?
It's 50 centimeter diameter.
50 centimeter diameter.
This is Dan Ward, my partner.
Yeah, pleasure to meet you. All right. So here, I know you've stored 250,000 of them at 1.5 millimeter in size between each silo. So that puts you at 1 million just within that space that you use in 99 Herring River, or I'm sorry, 99 Riverbend. Do you think that you're interested in growing more than 100,000 in the future within where you're at?
And I'm not sure where that number came from. That seems pretty high as compared to being in the
This
seed
is your
animals.
application for your aquaculture license.
Yeah, can I interject something? So that's not what we propose to put there. That's an example in the document of an upweller. So that's prior to the stage that goes out into the Herring River. So the 21 by 21 by 24, that's an oyster upweller silo. That's not what we put out there, and that's not what we would propose to put out there.
But although it says it holds 250,000, I'm only playing the size factor of what you have
So that's
here
like-
versus what you want to do.
What I'm saying though is that in that document that you have, there's multiple pages. There's the first pages that propose what we're gonna do.
Right.
And then there's additional information that explains other projects we did, there was projects in other towns.
I have it all here, yeah.
Yeah, so that's not what we have or would put out or did put out. What we did put out is prior to this page, so it's a apples and oranges thing. So a 21 by 21 by 24 is an oyster upweller. That's not what we put out the Herring River, nor is it what we propose to put out in the Herring River.
But if you read here, it says that you place 250,000 1.5 millimeter base scallops in each silo.
In our nursery area,
one.
which
Right.
is not in Harwich, it's in a different area, just like our oysters. We don't grow oysters in Harwich either. so
Sure,
we
of
also
course.
put those.
But what I'm saying is for a size factor of what you proposed for this, how come you're proposing such a larger scale project now for
The
only
bigger they get,
100,000?
the more space they need per animal.
I know that.
So
Of course,
you
using
can have a
salads in my
million of
propagation
them in a cup of your hand.
Of course.
When they're the size of a period.
Right.
And when they get up to be 4 and 5 inches in diameter, you can only have a couple hundred of them in each layer within a Japanese lantern.
Right.
So the volume that they take up and that the each individual animal needs changes significantly with their size as they grow.
So you say at the 720 odd square feet, you're going to be absolute maximum at 100,000.
I believe that was the number we supplied with that first document.
Right. Okay. Just trying to play it to the scale of what it's really going to be. Because if it's 100,000, it's a lot different than obviously anything upwards of that because of the maintenance and upkeep to it, plus testing and also I'm sure that you have to have Division Marine Fisheries approved seed from a hatchery that then gets relocated to. And where's your current supply for seed?
Our hatchery in Pocasset.
Okay. Okay. And have you filled out an application for shellfish grant for the town for this project so far?
So there's multiple steps to this, just like the
course.
lawyer alluded to. This is step one of right? So no, there has been none because we have to get through this and then conservation.
Sure.
And then chapter 91, then you go get a license. 'cause
Right.
You can't get a license if you don't have where to put it.
Of course, but I think it would alleviate everybody's questions if you were to fill out the application, because then I would have all these answers I just had to ask you now on a document. So I would like to see at least a baby step towards this. We shouldn't even be having this conversation so in depth without that at least. So for my personal perspective as a shellfish consul, because I need to have this on paper for what I'm looking at. So.
A lot of the timing on this got triggered from the floods that we had last December.
Of course.
And watched that entire seawall be totally underwater and wave action coming across it.
Of course.
And the northern end where the L shape is now separated. And so
But a timely manner doesn't mean that you can't skip an important step like a shellfish application.
I have to make a decision on whether I remove or repair a seawall that's still able to be not fished out of the ocean somewhere up and down the river.
Of course.
And
From a bulkhead perspective, but not an aquaculture farm perspective.
But I have no need for a bulkhead if I can't do aquaculture.
Okay.
So what we were attempting to do is start moving the ball along. Is this a feasible project that we can get signed off on, that people will say, yeah, as long as you still get your Chapter 91, you get this, you get that, we would be okay with you doing this application at this location.
Right. Okay. But unfortunately,
and that's where I still will have to make a decision on whether I think that seawall can make it through one more winter.
Sure.
Because that I have no desire to pick it up out of the river, like they did the cottages out on
and
North Beach.
seawall aside, of course, we're in agreement that the seawall needs to be replaced or removed at some point. Something has to happen with the seawall. But I would like to see, from the Shellfish Constable myself, as a standpoint, is can we get a figure of 100,000 as your capacity within your proposal?
I think there was documents submitted on our first proposal from BSC that included that.
Unfortunately, I didn't
document.
see it, but
Could I?
if we could highlight it, or if they have the BSC group here and they can talk to.
Could I ask something?
Sure.
So, like, let's say you had an oyster farm that was being proposed, right?
Of course.
It might be the amount of bags or the amount of cages or something, right? Does it matter if you put 100 oysters or 1,000 oysters? Isn't it like the amount of gear that's out there? Does it matter the number of animals inside the gear, or is it the amount of gear?
No, I mean, when you're saying gear, you're also referring to floats. So floats with sunlight penetration for the ground that you say is not adequate for shellfish habitat.
My question is, are we talking about the number of floats or the number of animals under the float? Does it matter if it's 100 animals or 1,000 animals?
I mean, if we're talking about, if you only need 100,000 animals in your space, do you need 700 plus square feet?
Well,
because the more space you have, the more issues we have on the waterway side of impeachment on the river, and all of it correlates to it.
It does.
So if we can narrow that, and if you have 30-inch by 30-inch cages, if you go with a 4-foot dock like we originally were talking about, we might be in the same ballpark. But we're a couple steps away.
If the application is for that amount of structure, you would be able to utilize the space under those structures for the maximum number of animals that could survive there. So if you're growing 3 millimeter animals, it might be 2 million. If you're growing 3-inch animals, it might be 100,000. So it's going to change throughout the season depending on what you're growing in that location. So it's the amount of structures that's being permitted. The number of animals is going to vary depending on time of year. So it's not like it's just like an oyster farm. Just because you have a maximum capacity of 100,000, you're not only going to put out 100,000 that would normally be in 2 bags, when over the whole year it would grow and fill that entire amount. So the maximum amount that you could put in there, we could tell you that number, but it's not going to be that number to start because you'd only be using 10% of the surface area. The application is for the square footage, So I don't know. I mean, I could tell you the number of animals when they're 2 millimeters that we could fit in there. I'm not sure how relevant that is, given that it's the square footage that's being applied for.
Right, but the correlation to the amount of animals has to do with the amount of maintenance and upkeeping as well.
No.
And how many times it has to be accessed.
It's just an estimate.
No, it would be the same. I mean, so.
It'll never be.
Hold on.
But I know from experience in my shellfish propagation lab that the more shellfish we have, the more effort it takes. The more bodies it takes.
But not the more
boats it takes.
Not the more times that you have to access it. If you have 1 upweller or 20 upwellers, you still have to sort them once a week.
Not necessarily.
Well, typically that's what happens in commercial. Is usually you sort your whole farm if you're going to do it. You don't just do part of it.
Yeah, but I mean, sure, if you have the manpower to, and you can do it efficiently.
Well, that's what commercial farmers do.
Right.
All right, do we have another? We gotta move forward.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
I'm a neighbor in Old Mill Point. I just want to make sure that the natural resource officer realizes that this is only phase 1 that he's talking about for this project out of at least 3 phases. So whatever number of shellfish he's talking about now is small relative to the operation that he'd like to build in a residential neighborhood.
Sure, in the correlation, and I know Jeff has mentioned this in the last factor too, and this is a fact that the more bay scallops and the more shellfish in general that are in a body of water, the healthier the body of water does become. So in some aspects, you're in a catch-22 because at what point do you have too many where it becomes an issue for the location itself and the logistics to it, or the health of the water? So it is a trade-off. There are no pollutants when it comes to bay scalloping. Bay scallops they do pull the most amount of nitrogen out of water columns. These are facts to bay scallops specifically. Is there native bay scallops within Herring River? No. There's no eelgrass that's present. So.
But there's probably a reason for that, isn't there? It's because the Herring River is supposed to be for recreation, not for commercial production.
Yeah, yes and no. History and depth to Herring River itself is very diverse in commercial and recreational usages. Have recreational uses hurt eelgrass in an area? That's a study to be had. You know, is this something that is a end-all be-all solution? Absolutely not. But is it a step in the right direction? Sure, but it has to align with the access points, the ability to it, the testing records, and the ability to understand that, just like Jeff's 99 River Bend Road, that if this is the only updated piece of paper that I have, but this isn't what they've been working on or have in their field right now, at the least I'd like to be kept up with that, because that's a priority, of course, you know. Not only would I be able to learn and have other folks learn off of what he is doing in the river, but that's just that's a communication thing that I found has not happened just yet.
Can I just add, it's just like I was making a point earlier, it's the square footage that we farm under is what the permit is. There's no listing in the permit with DMF or with Harwich of, is it a hatch? Is it clipped underneath? Is it a lanternette? Is it a cage? How do you access it?
Right.
That's never been part of a permit. It's the size of the floats, which is identical today as what was put in the permit when it was originally applied for. Now, if you want to say, is it accessed by hatch or underneath the front, that's a different conversation we can have, but that's not a condition of any aquaculture propagation permit.
Sure, I just was correlating the amount of animals to the usage based off my professional experience working in a propagation setting. That's where I'm coming from in that aspect. Also, giving that if you were to fit 100,000 bay scallops in an area, even at full growth, do you need 700 square feet?
It'll be more or less animals in that depending on the time of year. And yes, that entire area is what's required. That's what's needed. That's what's necessary.
In your opinion?
Well, it's our business, right?
Right, and it's my business as well to understand in depth of how propagation works as well. So I know firsthand experience of what 1 million bay scallops look like in one inch bays, and the size differences are pretty far off. So
700 square feet in Herring River is not that much what they're proposing in this area.
Yeah, I know.
I grew up in this area. I know what they're proposing. 700 square feet is not that much. Now you're talking 100 feet wide, and they're going to put a boat on it. Have you been in Saquatucket Harbor and seen the commercial boats come through that where they come through? It's about 40 feet wide, and they go side by side. Now, if anybody's got complaints about passage or any of that, 700 square feet in that area where they're proposing it is nothing.
All right, hold on.
Excuse me.
Hang on. Yes, sir, in the back.
All right, my name's Don Larson. I also live at Old Mill Point, and I'd like to express what I think is being discussed here. All right, as this lady mentioned earlier, the idea is we're going to take public space and the use rights of that public space and hand it over to private use. And in exchange, it seems like the deal is we get a seawall. Well, what does a seawall cost? And is it always done by private people? Does the town ever go in and build a seawall? Does a nonprofit ever go in and build a seawall? What's a seawall cost? And then if we know what a seawall costs, we can start thinking, okay, well, is it worth giving away a public space for that? And then phase 2, phase 3, we can start talking about what the public is getting by giving away public space.
Okay, thank you. The seawall is on his property.
Right.
So it's not, the seawall isn't on public property. It's private property. He owns the
Right,
seawall.
but there's a public interest, from what I can understand, of having that seawall maintained. Is that correct? Or no? Maybe there is
No.
Not necessarily. Well, then why give away public space?
It's not, it's private.
No, the water.
Oh, we were just talking about the bulkhead.
Right. Just talking about an hour. Right, but that's the deal.
All right, hold on. No, we're not gonna do this side comment stuff. All right, you had a question, it's a good comment, but that's the answer to it. It's a private bulkhead.
Right.
It's not a public,
So the public is public.
Yes, it is, but there isn't people crossing this bulkhead to get to the water. It's private property.
saying this because Jeff Lang basically kind of threatened to just remove the bulkhead and not replace it, which he did at the last Waterways Committee meeting as well. So he heard that threat as, if you don't allow the scallop farming, I'm just gonna take my bulkhead out and not, not replace it. So I think that's where he's just getting that comment.
I don't necessarily agree with that. He made the comment of taking the bulkhead out because he would be responsible for having to go and collect it and find all the pieces and parts. Replacing it is his own fruition. If he wants his property to wash away, the marsh to get eaten away, that's on him. That has nothing to do with public. He owns that. So that would be like me backing a dump truck up into the river and dumping in a pile of wood and saying, see you later.
Yeah.
So I don't think, and I'm not speaking for him, but I didn't hear that as a threat or malintent. It's on him to collect it, which could be very expensive, and a boat hits a sunken piece of his wall. That's on him. He owns it.
Right, I do realize, like, if you have a bulkhead and it falls into the water, you're responsible for taking it out. But he basically kind of said, I'm not gonna replace it. In the last Waterways meeting, he said, I don't really need the bulkhead, with the, it fills in, what do I care? I don't need it. So he has, at 2 meetings, made an implicit threat. So that's just what he's hearing.
Wow.
I heard it too. I mean, if you go back and listen to the other Waterways meeting, it was a little more profound. But just a comment.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question about just the operation itself? So you said, once a week you go pick your cages, and what does that entail? Is that like oyster farming of take all the cages, tumble them, put back ones that are too small and move forward, or?
So what I was referring to is upwellers. And so propagation, like that's what, I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. Don. That's what Don does is upwellers, right? And so at our hatchery in Pocasset, we have upwellers too. And so upwellers is when the shellfish are really small, like 1 or 2 millimeters, right? And so because they're so sensitive, you have to clean them every single week, every 7 days, right? Sometimes it's every 14 days. Sometimes it's twice a week, depending on the season. It's a lot, right? So that's something where we have access to fresh water and we have pumps and they're plugged in, right? That's not what this is. That's why I was saying the thing that he brought over here, that slip, is not what we're talking about. There's no pumps or anything with what we're talking about here. This is just ambient flow. So these animals are larger, like Jeff said, 10 to 15 millimeters. You deploy them once, let them sit for 4 to 6 weeks, go in once and swap them out to larger nets, and then harvest them in November. So you go out there 3 times. Once to put them out, which takes a few hours, it might take half a day. Once 4 to 6 weeks later to swap them out, which might again take half a day, and then again in November. So usually it's a July, September 1st, and November. That's it.
You're not actively on there every single day.
The entire year, 3 times.
Gotcha.
Can I ask a question? Hi, Ralph Farco, Old Mill
Yeah.
Point. So you're trying to see if you can get this approved before you spend the money on a bulkhead. That makes perfect sense.
That's right.
All right, I get that. Now, what about the phase 2 and phase 3? Is this gonna be?
Well, we can't.
Hold on, wait a minute.
I understand that,
He wants to ask.
but right now, we're talking about phase 1.
But isn't that exactly what he's
That's
doing?
not fair.
He's not gonna put
This
his
is what's in
bulkhead
front of
up.
us.
But he's not gonna put his bulkhead up until he finds out if he can get approval. I wanna know, is it gonna be another 1,400 more square feet for the whole phase when he's complete?
In the letter that BSC submitted with our application this week for revision, we have answered those questions that a lot of the abutter comments were about.
And then second part to my question is, it also said something about a commercial building structure, so you're gonna remove the home that's there?
That is a Russian plot.
Okay, no, that's fine. I get it.
The house.
Yeah, but all I'm saying is.
Right, let him, you're asking a question, let him.
The house floods 6.5 to 7 feet deep on all of these big, heavy storms.
Okay.
And it was never built to stand in the flood zone.
Right.
And so it is to either lift and or replace onto.
You're gonna raise it up to
raise
higher,
it up
yeah.
out of the velocity zone. It's a residential home.
Yeah.
Not, all of our
Yeah.
operation is in Cassett.
Yeah.
Which is where our commercial operation is for.
Can
for
I
shellfish.
just say, if you have more transparency with your overall plan, because I think, I've been in development for over 35 years, uncertainty is what rebel rouses people, when they don't actually know exactly what the whole thing's gonna look like. You're talking about, how many, he wanted to know how many scallops. Now, if you're gonna have 3 million little guys, right, maybe you need to be there 24 hours a day. Or you're just gonna have X amount of the full-size ones, because that would require less constant day-to-day operation. The kids in Old Mill Point, 65 homes, they have one access to that river on the dock. They play there. They don't go on the bridge because they're good kids. They play from that dock, and generations have played, some of them in this room. We just want to make sure that it's not going to be like this big, constant disruption to the river. At least that's how we feel. I'm not in a butter, but clearly, if you want this to go through, you've got to be more transparent as to what this second and third phase is going to look like. I don't want to look out there and see a bunch of floats. That's crazy, but if you're gonna rebuild your bulkhead and put a couple of things and you're not gonna hurt the existing thing, maybe some people would be on board with it.
All right, hold on. Yes, sir.
All right, it was brought up, I'm Robert Wary from Old Mill Point. It was brought up earlier that the access in there's 100 feet wide or whatever it was, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know if anybody on the eastern side is well aware. I fished that area a lot for many, many years. And go out on the jetty in early spring for whatever's moving out there. The truth is, that is a shoal. That comes way, way out. And even often at high tide, 2 boats are having trouble, small boats, 25 footers, having trouble getting through that area because of the narrow shoal that comes out from the eastern side of this supposedly 100-foot area. I think the depth would be very important in there. Unlike that we're talking, where it's deep.
Yep,
I'm a little confused.
Your name?
Walter Mason. So I'm a little confused. That shoal is up across from the town dock, not from where they're proposing. It's further down. I come in there in my boat all the time. And it's wide. I go in through the mooring field, across from it. I don't see any hazards in navigation. There's the house right before his has a dock and a boat on it all the time. And that's after the town dock and before his property. And boats go past that all the time. I mean, I don't see any problems.
Okay, I'm not a very good boater then, because I've had trouble.
Okay. I mean, we all have our skills. Yes.
So I just have a question. I understand that you own the bulkhead, you clear, and you put pylons on, you'll tie up to that. So can I do that as well? I mean, then it becomes a public waterway.
True.
Right? Why can't I do it?
Do what?
Exact same thing, right? In fact, like, so he owns the bulkhead, I get it, and then it becomes a public waterway. Why does it become his right to use that public waterway for a scallop farm? Why can't I use it for a scallop
You
farm?
go through the application
Alrighty,
process.
but yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So what stops me from just taking an anchor and making a float anywhere, because it's public? Honestly, what's the
Because you need a
difference?
permit for it.
No, assuming I got a permit. So are we setting a precedent that he's able to get a permit for a public space?
Which is not an easy feat either.
Right,
We're in the
but
process of that.
does that mean that there'll be other permits? And if not, why
That's
not?
why
What
when
would
we
be the
look at
difference?
phase 1, we're talking about a process for what we're looking at in front of us, and it's not
Totally
to
get
dismiss the other facts of it, it's just that each process is different in that setting. And
Totally understood, but
more
if someone
that,
can
but-
claim public, waterway for a business, doesn't that then lead you to believe
Well, no, if
that
I'm-
anyone can, assuming the process, I'm not saying circumvent the process, you do the process, awesome, we set the precedent, I've got, access to water, what if I want a scholar, or anybody else, like, what does it, again, it's a precedent that you're sending, right? You're allowing someone to do that, I mean, I'm not really understanding. Like, does it end with him?
He's going through the proper procedure. You need to do it too.
No,
Oh, hold on, no, we're not, yeah.
Understood,
We
I
gotta-
totally get that.
This property has, isn't there a permit that came along with this property for this?
So if I may?
Yes,
Mr.
please.
Chair, so, you know, this is in the early stages. At some point, the Board of Selectmen are gonna have to make a decision whether they want this type of operation in the town. Currently, there's a lot of towns who have this type of operation. In Harwich, we don't. And this is an application coming forward that we have to evaluate. And our job and my job is to evaluate the impact on navigation. Conservation Commission will assess the impacts on land containing shellfish, riverfront area, land under ocean, salt marsh, coastal beach. There's a lot of factors that are in play here that will be addressed throughout the process. And ultimately, the Board of Selectmen it's gonna go before them, and they're gonna make a determination whether they're gonna grant an aquaculture permit to allow this to happen. But from my perspective, looking at what's in front of us and what the impact is on navigation in the river that has multiple uses, not just recreation. Primarily recreation, I get it, but you got a shellfish hatchery right up the road. You've had commercial guys doing, bringing in weir poles and that whole fishery. It's got a history of multiple use. So I get the passion here and I understand, but you know, from my perspective, looking at it at various stages, looking at various tides, I agree with this gentleman up here. I think the northern end of that bulkhead, there's a lot of room, and it's deep. As you get up to the southern part of that bulkhead, there is a shoal. Even to the north of the shoal you're talking about, there is a shoal there that I have concern with. They are doing their due diligence to try to propose, and it's not approved, so who knows if it's going to happen. But they're trying to move that bulkhead when they redo it, and everybody in this room has to agree it needs to be done. They're trying to move it landward. Whether it's approved or not, I don't know. But on that northern end, they're bringing that bulkhead in almost 6 feet. So if we allow a float, a 6-foot float, it's not going to impact the waterway at the north end. I, however, think a 6-foot float at the southern end will impact. And so where I'm at is I think they can go 30 feet up that bulkhead, so that would be 3 10-foot floats without impacting the navigation of that area, because the first 10 float will be essentially where the bulkhead is now. The second one's incrementally, you're going to get 2 feet, 3 feet out into the current waterway. That is not a huge impact on navigation. And then on the northern, on the side that goes in towards the embayment, in towards the house, I think you're looking for 3 10-foot floats there. That, in my estimation, won't affect navigation either. So it's not, and maybe that doesn't work for you, Mr. Lang, I don't know, but I think, you know, and I think one of the interesting things that Don was getting at is how much can these cages that you're going to use, how much can you grow? And can you grow enough without having to utilize all those floats that you've proposed that, in my estimation, will have an impact on the waterway? So that's a decision, a calculation that you're going to have to make. But I do think there's some positive aspects of this project. And I can't evaluate future phases. I think that question may be asked by the Board of Selectmen, or maybe they're gonna require that. I don't know, I'm not gonna speak for them, but they're gonna have to get a permit to do that work. They're gonna have to get the Chapter 91 license. They're gonna have to get CONSCOM approval on all these things. Dredging. There is not gonna be displacement of moorings. There's just not. I'm not gonna revoke anybody's mooring permit so somebody can build a float. We don't do that now when somebody wants to come in and put a private dock. They have up to 80 feet of walkway from mean high water to go out into the waterway and then have a 200-foot float. That's a pretty good footprint that we allow private homeowners to use that public waterway. So yes, is it public waterway? Yes, is he asking to use a piece of that? Absolutely, just like many other waterfront homeowners do. So I do think that there is a compromise here, and in my estimation, without impacting navigation, I went there at the very lowest tide. We had a negative tide this morning, and you probably saw me out there. And I went in amongst moorings. I looked at at being able to pass. You know, the real tight point is up by Mr. Kelleher's property. I think that's probably the narrowest part of the river. But I think I know everybody's passionate about it, but that's where I'm at. I think that from a navigation standpoint, and that's our purview. A lot of these other things, dredging, all of that, whether it's improvement or maintenance, I think it is improvement, but that's all going to be determined by CONSCOM and the state level. And Mr. Lang knows he's going to have to go through those steps to get there. So that's where I'm at. And if I can answer any questions, I'd be happy to.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
What kind of taxation, if that's public waterway, the use of that waterway, what kind of contribution financially through taxes is made to Harwich and our town?
I don't know. I'm the harbor master. That's something you'll have to ask tax folks.
Yes, sir, in the back.
All right, so this is phase one, which is what you have in front of you. So if phase two occurs, then this would all be repeated, and it would depend on where the cages would go, and then you would reevaluate whether it would get in the way of navigation.
If there
is that the procedure?
Yes. We would have to go through, everything would have to be pre-approved for stage two, for any other stages subsequent after this. We're just looking at what's in front of us. You know, if we prove what's in front of us, doesn't mean he can run amok and just do whatever he wants.
Setting by approving phase one.
No, and I would say, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I would say that, you know, my recommendation on what I just said would be dependent upon whether they get their aquaculture permit. If they don't get the permit, I don't support having all those floats out there just for recreational use. I think it's dependent upon whether they get the aquaculture permit, and clearly it's dependent upon whether they get the approved Chapter 91 and all the state licenses and permit from the Board of Selectmen. So my recommendation, and it's dependent upon whether Mr. Lang is successful at bringing that bulkhead in like he has proposed. So that's where I'm at.
All right, let's get out of here.
Anything else for the harbor master? Yes, sir.
I don't know if it's a good question or not, but in the, I couldn't find it in the Chapter 91. I own waterfront, just outside of the abutting zone. I have 60 feet of seawall. I understood that I had to maintain that seawall, and I was not allowed to let it, let's say, collapse into the river or something like that. And I'm not saying he's said that or whatever, but is it a requirement of mine to maintain that, irrespective of this whole other discussion, right?
I think that's a question you need to ask the Conservation Commission.
Okay.
I can answer that.
Okay.
Any existing
really
Chapter
not a
91
waterways
license for
What's
a
that?
It's not a
structure
waterways
requires that structure is maintained or removed if it's going to cause an issue to the waterway. So the only options are maintain it, improve it, or remove it completely.
She stayed
Okay, thank you. Can you just state your name quick? I can see it on the screen, but
Yep, this is Hannah Raditz with BSC.
thank you.
So, wasn't trying to stir this pot, okay with that, but if your role is somehow, between conservation to replace the seawall or repair the seawall, can we somehow split these things a little bit apart, right? Do they have to be so coupled together, the way it's being presented? The scallop has to be there, or the seawall?
Well, that's not up to us.
Okay.
That's not, he owns it, it's up to him what he wants to do.
No, I understand, but I have not, if I go to replace my seawall, which I have to do, do I, to the point of this lady over here, and I can go get all the permits, but do I go through this process to put a scallop farm down in my area? I mean, is this how it's gonna?
Of course you do, you have to go,
Yeah, I know you do, but the question is, do we wanna do this all through the whole river, and who decides all of that, right? Cause Mr. Lang, I think in the last meeting said he hoped that everybody would have something on their dock. And maybe it's a good idea, I have no idea, but, everybody's gonna have to buy into that, and it's a bigger question, I think, than just boiling it down to, okay, this is phase one, and this is the only thing in front of us. I get what you guys wanna do, and you're trying to box it in, but.
I just don't think we can go hypothetical here. We got a project in front of us that we're addressing. If you have a project that needs to come forward, we would do the same thing, sir. I mean, we would evaluate it, we'd have these discussions. But a hypothetical is like,
Yes, sir?
Just a procedural question. So, because it's a couple of times I've heard you say this, Mr. Harbor Master. Last, on July meeting, you said you really liked the project, which struck me, quite honestly.
I think there's value in it.
There is a lot of value. There is a value, but.
That's what I.
So, okay. So from a process standpoint, and then you just said there's some positive aspects to that. So it's a couple times you said it.
Yeah.
But from a process standpoint, who really decides that it's a good project? Is that the selectmen? When does that happen?
Well, that's a question for the fire.
Yeah, I think ultimately they're gonna have to go in front of the Board of Selectmen to see if the selectmen support having an aquaculture operation in their town. Just like we've had in the past that have gone before the Waterways. And he then went in front of Conservation, it went in front of the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Selectmen made a decision, considering my input and the input of Conservation. And that's how I've envisioned this happening as well.
Okay, so would the Board of Selectmen then consider it the 3 phases, since I
No.
understand so that.
It's what's presented specifically.
I understand that's for you folks, but who takes the big picture? Does anybody?
You take it in pieces.
Yeah.
How it's broken
So
into.
there's no big picture.
Well,
No,
each thing cannot progress unless.
Understood.
Unless it's.
But still, so you're answering my question. So that, because I used to be on a zoning board, different town. And we would evaluate a project, whether it was a good project. Granted, they had to pass the zoning rules, but you have 40B housing. Is that the right spot for 40B housing? You have to evaluate whether, they pass all the rules, but it's just not the right spot. It's not smart housing. And I'm just wondering who in this town would make that kind of decision. And it sounds like it's the Board of Selectmen. From
Yes,
what
sir.
you're saying.
Yes, sir. Okay.
All right, what about do we want to review any of the plans? Because I know last meeting we suggested to move the docks a certain way. Do we want to?
I think you guys need to either, if you have enough
Yeah,
information to make a motion.
is there anything else? Is everyone, huh?
I have some.
Oh, well, please, enlighten us.
We were gonna wait till the public was done. To the applicants, a couple questions that we requested from the last meeting to this meeting, to come prepared with.
Say who he is.
My name is Kent Druschella.
Okay.
Did you identify and survey exact location of where this seawall revetment can be? Is it,
Yes.
you have
Yeah,
a very
that was-
specific, you have, I don't care where it is, but you have a very specific on the plan where it's gonna go.
The revision we just submitted was from a current, survey that was just done, and all of the orange, flags and things like that.
Because in the
are now marked.
earliest conversation around here, it was property line questions about coming onto somebody's property, needing to do this, and a fence line being close to where the property line is. That was the
Dave
sentence that came
Kelleher-
out between your
Dave
your
Kell-
attorney and somebody else's.
Yeah, Dave Kelleher's seawall returns about 60 to 80 feet back to the west. And that's been the line that we've been using, is where the right angle
Well,
of
it's not, I
his
mean, you
middle.
have a certified survey.
Is Dave Crispin? Dave, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yep. Did you hear that question?
Yeah, the survey is there. We know where the property lines are. We know the fence is a couple of feet beyond the property line. But we either tie into the end of his pile or we leave a 2-foot space.
But the property lines have been certified and they've been identified.
Don't registered land, Massachusetts Land Court. We all know where the property lines are.
Okay. That was one question we're gonna clear up. The second was, there was talk that you were going to investigate if you could put these floats inside using the pilings. They were gonna have to pile in to attach them to, make those pilings be inside the floats as opposed to the floats going right up next to them. Did you look into that?
We did, and the
We
proposed.
did look into that and decided basically that the configuration on the plan, which puts the pile between the pile and the bulkhead, is a much preferred structural alternative due to the currents that we're dealing with there.
Okay. So you're willing to then, for the harbor master, maybe be willing to have to give up 30 feet of float space because you can't push it in another 2 feet.
And I think that's where we'll go back and look at that exact revision where that line is.
Or shorten those, make those floats, that 30 feet of floats be 4 feet instead of.
That's right.
It's not 30 feet that he's missing. It's
I'm
more
sorry.
than that.
It's more than that, I'm sorry. 60 feet, what, 100 feet, whatever that is. But you're either gonna, so you bring it in closer at the point where the harbor master's concern is for navigational reasons.
Correct. That was
one or the other. Okay. Those were just points that we brought up to you last meeting, look into. That was what I just wanted to know if you did your due diligence and looked into it.
We did.
Yep.
Yes, I believe we did.
Okay.
But that was how we got that much footage out of the channel.
Okay. That's my question.
All right, anything else for any of the members? So.
If I may, I have a comment about just what was said about the property line. So they are proposing work on property that does not belong to them. They have not contacted the property owner. They will need to coordinate with us or go back and readjust. So they may have a survey, but the plan that you have before you shows work on property that does not belong to them.
We know they can even do it.
Well, I think at this point, I mean, I believe everyone hopefully has had an option to express their opinion or discuss this.
Well, what about what she just said? Yeah. That's pretty important.
That doesn't make any sense.
Well, I'm not done yet.
Okay, well. Continue.
I think we need to, yet again, postpone, I'll make a motion to postpone the project as proposed in review of some, continue these concerns.
Second.
You don't get a vote.
We know you're important, but you're not that important.
I make a motion that we postpone the project until the revisions are considered.
All right, who seconds?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. postpone till we get the revisions
Next meeting,
next month. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you have anything, who makes the decisions on repairing seawalls? Because that wasn't clear to me. It's the state, really. The state, so, yeah, because the guy, my neighbor next to me said it's
part of the state permitting process that he's gonna have to.
and if, according to what he was saying, that seawall is not in good shape, and he feels like a big storm will wash away, isn't he required to fix it regardless of the scallops?
I mean, again, that's really a conservation issue.
Yeah, I don't know the process. I mean, I think it ends up in the water, and we're gonna go to him to pick it up.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, but,
We still have a meeting to go here.
Yes.
yeah, Brian should just try to find.
All right, we still have a meeting
that had
here.
that responsibility. Where would it go? Would it go like a state website?
I would call Amy Uzlowski. That'd be my first call.
Okay, my wife
She could direct you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, thanks, guys.
All right, we still, hello?
And then we have.
Hello? We still have an active meeting. You guys want to take this out in the hallway?
Carry on outside.
Okay.
Hey, everybody, everyone.
So you have
Hello?
to do it to 720 square feet.
Turn the hearing aid up. Hey, guys.
All right, that will do. You got a couple.
All right. Well,
Thank you. Did you get the stuff I sent you? I know it was late.
I think I probably had most of it already, I just wasn't sure if it was missing anything. Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I got it.
But I don't think
Thank you.
I'll ever be able to do the bridging. It's all mud. Now you're gonna put the marsh grass. So, but the marsh grass was there because they dredged that area that's now mud.
So you're not looking to add any more floats?
You guys, can you take that?
yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
That's great.
You stirred them up.
All right.
I can't wait till I
Want to just close that fucking door, please? It doesn't matter. I mean,
We'll just finish up.
Yep. So, monthly reports.
You guys got my monthly report.
Thank you.
You know, I don't really know much to highlight. I guess, you know, I think we told you, we closed out our 2023 grant. And we got another one for this coming year that should have said 2024, but we got another grant from the state to dredge this spring, which is always a good thing. And I think that's about it. I mean, if you have any questions on it, it's a 2-month monthly report, the June and July, because I was delinquent doing June's in July, so that's all I got.
Okay.
What our hearing count?
And then, sorry, Don's got a monthly report, so.
Okay.
All right, Natural Resource Officer.
It's been busy, to say the least. So in July, we got the shellfish propagation lab at Witchmere up and running again. We transferred 120,000 oysters in their seed size, about R8, roughly 5 to 6 millimeters. 750,000 cohogs. So we quickly determined that the lab condition is poor, to say the least. I did a lot of work on it over the winter to hopefully alleviate us of major repairs early on. Wasn't really the case. We turned the pumps on and pipes broke and everything busted apart, so we rebuilt it again. And of course, by that point, it was, days before we were putting oysters and quahogs in. So lots of different things. This is just kind of brief examples of it, but we spend every day repairing at least one figure of something in the lab. So that's something to be addressed in the future. We had a power outage. Luckily, we were able to get on it right away. There's a breaker issue. The recreational permit holders have been heavily hitting Pleasant Bay, which is great. Pleasant Bay is wonderfully stocked in years past. Averaging 30 folks on Wednesdays and 40 plus on Saturdays. I'd say 40 to near 50% of them have some type of violation. So not great.
Wow.
So aside from that, we did water quality testing on the 10th and 25th of July. We had one issue with a malfunctioning dissolved oxygen meter that was handed out. Quickly got it turned in and offered a fixed one for that. So we were up and running on that person for that pond. Went through all the water testing procedures for freshwater and implemented new ones. Seemed like there was a lot of redundant information, too many things crossed out on old documents. So created a new document, laminated multiple copies, and handed them out to all volunteers. And in the month of July, we organized a public outreach event to try to alleviate questions for shellfish regulations. And it was very successful. And we did that in August.
Stroll, that's cool. You did that.
Yeah. 250 plus folks were talked to.
That's awesome.
So where'd you do with that?
We set up, we got permission through the TD Bank on Route 28 there in Hartsport. Set up a booth with my 2 seasonal staff members and my intern who came for a 6-week program. And we talked to passerbys about aquaculture in the town. So
that's cool. Who's the woman who works there on the weekends? The teacher?
Callie Lauer.
The boys, my boys were in there just like literally playing with all the animals. And like they were like walking around with handfuls. I'm like, guys, they're real animals, put them back. But she was awesome. She spent probably 45 minutes with them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great.
Just one quick question on the as far as like the building goes, what does that fall under? Is that a harbor master building? Is that no man's land?
I mean, it's a town building, and so you got to go through the whole facilities, or if you want to make major repairs, you got to go through the capital process. I mean, it's just like any other town.
So I was gonna say, is that on somebody's radar to?
That is heavily on my radar.
For like a capital improvement.
Absolutely.
For it.
Yeah, it is a necessity.
Just because it seems like it's proved its value, and I don't even know. I know 2% of what happens in there.
Yeah.
But just from being down at the dock, it's a pretty cool thing to.
Yeah, it's great.
I want to see it.
Yeah. Most importantly, our data that comes out of the lab is what we really need for the department. And I mean, we take temperature readings, pH levels, dissolved oxygen rate, starting to look into phytoplankton amongst the upwellers, and that's on a daily occurrence. So we have logs that we've kind of stepped up a little bit to ensure that everything gets digitalized and put on a computer from here on out.
Cool.
Because banker boxes of old logbooks is time in the past, so slowly converting things.
Yeah, but it gives you a leg to stand on when people, applicants like that come in. It's like that's stuff that the department's doing on a daily basis or a regular basis. It's not, you're not talking hypothetical. You're talking actually doing it.
Right.
So.
Yeah, you need to.
Yeah.
So. It's good.
Great.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you.
And then I believe
the last thing
is just that the memory. Did everyone see that
memo?
Just a
memo on this individual called me. He's got a Marina Eye LLC. It's an app that he has put together where he records video and takes pictures of marinas that he posts on this app. So if you're going into Saquatucket for the first time, you can pull it up on the app, and he's got a video of the entrance, and he does it by drone and pictures of the marina and where the slips are, and it's kind of a cool app. So it doesn't cost the town anything. I sent the agreement up to legal and the Board of Selectmen to get their approval to be part of this, and anyways, the Board of Selectmen required a couple of changes, which I've made, so hopefully it'll get signed at the next Board of Selectmen. But I just wanted you guys to be aware of it. It's I think it's got
I
value.
want to be blurred out if I'm sitting on the back of a boat.
I think it's got value.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'll give us a little
With the
exposure.
other marinas on the Cape?
I don't see why not.
Yeah, it's a big, I mean.
I think there's a lot of, if you go to their website, you can see all who's on it. And there's several. Yeah.
I actually tried to start something like this.
Did
like
you?
10 years ago, yeah. I started to, and then I lost track.
Came up with Google Earth too.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I'm here dealing with this.
Me too.
So next meeting is Wednesday, September 18th. I'd like to make a motion for adjournment.
Second.
I can't. I need someone to make the motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. And this is.
I won't be able to be at the next meeting.
Well, we need you here.
Somebody want to hit the button?